Whether Stalker 2 will live up to the success of the original trilogy or even manage to surpass it is, in my view, reliant on three essential factors. These aren't just minor points. They're elements so critical that they can transform a solid open world RPG into an unforgettable one. Let's talk about it. At its core, Stalker 2 is about freedom. It's the freedom to choose your own path, to make your own decisions, and ultimately to shape your own narrative within the game. This freedom is expressed in a world that is vast, immersive, and deeply layered, allowing players to explore not only the main storyline but also countless side quests, encounters, and mysteries hidden within the game's environment. While Stalker 2 can be played as a story-focused single-player game, one where you could follow the main storyline and engage with side missions in a more structured way, it also invites players to ignore the main path entirely, opting instead to wander, explore, and discover the game world at their own pace. This approach to open world design isn't an accident, it's a deliberate decision by developer GSC Game World. Few games and even fewer studios are so committed to this level of player agency. Most games want you to engage with their curated content, guiding you along the main storyline or pushing you towards side quests. But Stalker 2 breaks from this mold, giving players the unique freedom to interact with the world in a way that feels less like a checklist of objectives and more like a genuine experience. The developers don't mind if you skip certain elements, miss out on missions, or even pass by hidden content that took years to create. In fact, Stalker 2 values the kind of player-driven discovery that is increasingly rare in today's gaming landscape. For me, this freedom to potentially miss content, either because you didn't encounter it during your first playthrough or simply because you got lost exploring somewhere else, is a rare mark of quality. In Stalker 2, you're not pressured to see and experience everything in one go. Instead, you're encouraged to lose yourself in the world, to become absorbed in the atmosphere, and to discover things on your own. This design philosophy invites players to engage with the game on a more personal level, encouraging a sense of immersion that is rare in today's more guided, objective-driven games. It rewards those who are willing to explore, who don't need the game to tell them exactly where to go, and who find joy in stumbling upon secrets and stories hidden in the far corners of the world. And that's what makes Stalker 2 so promising. A game that respects its players' autonomy, inviting them to create their own experiences within the intricate, haunting landscape of the zone. The RPGs that have achieved this level of player freedom in the past 10 years can be counted on two hands. GTA, Red Dead Redemption 2, Cyberpunk 2077, Elden Ring, Dragon's Dogma 2, Baldur's Gate 3, and from what we've seen so far, potentially Stalker 2 as well. I'd say that's a high caliber list by any standard. Whether Stalker 2 will truly meet these lofty expectations and deliver on the developers' ambitious promises is something we'll know more about in the coming weeks. Yet, based on the legacy of the original Stalker trilogy and the glimpses we've seen into the development of Stalker 2, I'm feeling optimistic. But that's far from the only thing that potentially sets Stalker 2 apart from many traditional RPGs out there. RPGs live or die by their world building. Ultimately, it's the game world that keeps players engaged far beyond the curated content, often for years after release. Cyberpunk 2077, 4 years after its initial launch, still has a peak player count of 48,000 on Steam alone. Baldur's Gate 3 sits at 96,000 a year and a half post-release, and Red Dead Redemption 2 holds steady at 43,000, despite having been console exclusive for quite some time. This demonstrates one key truth. All a great RPG really needs is a sandbox where I want to play. A world filled with enough toys that I can build my own castles, tunnels, and homes, if you catch my drift. Anyone with kids will understand exactly what I mean. Give them a sandbox with some molds or a box of Legos and they're entertained for hours on end. In essence, that's the ultimate role-playing experience. It's not just about the campaign story, leveling up your character, or discovering new abilities. It's about everything that happens after those things. It's about immersing yourself in a different world, escaping from your own reality, and slipping into another identity. Or maybe it's about feeling like a fearless explorer, risking life and limb to investigate anomalies, search for precious artifacts, and fight for survival, even if it's only for a few hours after a long day at work. Few RPGs reach this level of immersion. It's the absolute pinnacle of RPG design, the elite tier. GSC Game World managed to achieve it 15 years ago, and I'm incredibly excited to see if they can do it again with Stalker 2. Judging by what we've seen so far, the Sandbox already looks incredibly inviting. It's the dark, oppressive, and constantly threatening atmosphere that captivated Stalker fans in the original games. That sense of looming dread is what made the world of Stalker so gripping and unforgettable. Among all the preview videos from the media who got to play the first few hours of Stalker 2 recently, one of the most frequent asked questions is the atmosphere just as heavy and intense as in the first Stalker? If so, I'm sold. And the answer, according to every preview, is unanimous: yes, Stalker 2's atmosphere is just as brutal, terrifying and oppressive as it was back then. And I wholeheartedly agree. If GSC Game World has managed to nail this one defining trait of the Stalker series, we're about to eat really good on November 20th when the game releases. But every truly great open world RPG needs a unique feature that sets it apart, something that elevates it above the middle tier of games, something you can only experience in that specific world. Cyberpunk 2077 has Night City and its dystopian future, a vision we're currently approaching at full speed. In Red Dead Redemption, it's the Wild West, the vast landscapes, and the joy of playing cowboy. In GTA, it's the allure of being a gangster, indulging in a life of crime without real-world consequences. Baldur's Gate 3 offers deeply layered interactions and surprises, more so than most other games in the D&D space. Stalker, on the other hand, is all about survival in the harshest conditions, grappling with the supernatural in a real-world setting of our time. This blend of realism and otherworldly threats holds a unique appeal for me and for many others I've spoken with. The essence of Stalker is this relentless battle for survival, where the line between the real and the paranormal blurs in a way that few other games dare to attempt. That's what makes Stalker truly special and sets it apart in the RPG landscape. Sure, the Wild West with horseback riding is cool, and a gritty dystopian future where society has fallen apart, or a fantastical setting filled with goblins and dragons has its own special appeal. But a game world that largely exists within our current reality, and in my case is only 1,700 kilometers away, has a very different kind of pull. In Pripyat, after the 1986 Chernobyl disaster, time has essentially stood still. The exclusion zone surrounding the reactor is effectively a 30 square kilometer lost place, offering a perfect setting for ghost stories, supernatural encounters, and haunting legends. It's comparable to the atmosphere of ancient Incan temples in games like Tomb Raider or Uncharted, a dangerous, unexplored world that's just waiting for us to step in and, at least in our minds, map out. I can't wait to dive into the zone and marvel at all the details the developers have drawn from the real world to recreate in the game. This realism is reflected in every part of the world and in the resources available to us. Our gear, weapons, and equipment are mostly old, worn out, outdated, and scarce, which makes survival in the zone a serious challenge and fills every moment with a sense of uncertainty. This scarcity adds a constant sense of tension, making survival feel raw and unfiltered, a unique thrill that you just don't get in many other games. For me, these are the three defining factors that could make Stalker 2 one of the best open-world RPGs of recent times, if developer GSC Game World truly nails them. What are your top features that you generally look for in RPGs, and specifically in Stalker 2, that would keep you immersed for hundreds of hours? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear your thoughts. That's all for this video though, I hope you enjoyed it and I wish you all an amazing day. See you in the next one.